Hey, this is Pamela Schneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and this is the Purge Reporter Week in Review. Greg, we have had a week of just really interesting, overarching trends that, I mean, when you all put it together, it just kind of like, wow, there's a lot going on, but not a lot of like super catchy news releases, if you know what I mean.
No, there was no huge mergers or acquisitions or billion-dollar investments into different kind of growing techniques. I think what we're seeing more is the continuation of what we've already been seeing. If we want to start off in the food service realm, we can talk about TGI Fridays, which I don't know, they haven't really been lighting the world on fire lately, and neither has their whole segment. Even before, I think, pandemic, the casual was not really killing it. And as we've talked about during the pandemic, food service, the middle type markets are the ones, well, high end too, really getting killed because a lot of the way restaurants stayed reasonably active was doing takeout. And we saw a big announcement from TGI Fridays this week.
Yeah, they plan to launch a new concept called, what was it, Fridays to Go or something like that. I can't remember what it was called. Yeah, Fridays to Go. And
Fridays on the fly.
Fridays on the fly. No. So Fridays on the fly is a concept that they launched. And the reason why they're doing it, they're doing a bunch of different things that I think are signs of how these restaurants really have to evolve to make it in this market. And so they went from, in 2019, about 9.8% of their sales were meals not eaten on site. And during the height of the pandemic in 2020, it went up to 37.8%. But even a year later in 2021, they were still over 30% of their revenue was from meals eaten not at their restaurants. So in response, they've launched this to-go concept. It's about 2,500 square feet, basically a kitchen. But I think that's really interesting. But what I think is like the root of that is before that, they had made deals with two different ghost kitchen organizations to use their kitchen space to make other dining outlets food. So just think about all of not Chili's, Applebee's, TGI Fridays, this whole like segment of casual but sit down dining that was really hurting during the pandemic. And now they're finding different ways to diversify and to recognize what consumers want. They want that great eating experience, which they can deliver from their fully equipped kitchens, but they want it not necessarily, and it cracks me up because I mentioned this earlier, the Applebee's new campaign. I don't know where I saw these commercials, probably on a sports of some sort. I mean, maybe I was watching the Georgia game the other day, and they've got the Cheers theme playing and talking about Applebee's. And it's like, I mean, is anyone really nostalgic to go to Applebee's and have, you know, whatever it is that people go to Applebee's for? Like, even before the pandemic, no one was rushing down.
I think a lot of people are not nostalgic to hang around strangers.
Right?
Although this new Fridays concept does have some indoor seating for that.
Yeah, but that is not the concept to go sit in a restaurant full of people with your waiter with his 37 pieces of tchotchkes on his suspenders there, and to have the kitsch and the sports memorabilia all over the walls. If you are wanting to go to somewhere like that, I feel like consumers right now are gravitating toward an authentic place, an actual neighborhood bar or an actual neighborhood type place. I think a lot of consumers are trying to find one of those to support in their neighborhoods, or at least we are in our markets. Those types of restaurants are really, I think, doing all right, not doing great, but doing all right. But the mass market Applebee's and TGI Fridays of the world are not. So they're finding different ways to make collaborations because they're huge and they can make huge deals. And so if a ghost kitchen organization wants to scale up, there's a whole lot of kitchen space and a whole lot of footprint of restaurant space. If 30% of your revenue is coming from not butts in seats, you got some space to think about what you're going to do inside those four walls.
Well, not only that, but it saves you on labor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
that was
another one of our favorite stories of the week was straight out of the Jetsons.
right. I know, if you want Rosie to be working a second job, I mean, there's finally, and it's got two little eyeballs on it and everything. I'll throw the picture up here. The LG CLOI Serve Bot. Boy, that just has a nice ring to it. They need to give this guy a name. I mean, the retail one's named as Marty. What are we going to call this one? But it is a new food service serving bot. It's basically got 3 trays, so you can put your food on it and it'll like bebop around in the restaurant and bring your food to you. I mean, there are certain restaurants out there that I think this would be a great addition to. I mean, IHOP is one of them, where it's like, you know, it's pretty hard to mess up an order of pancakes. This really makes sense for a concept like that.
Yeah, just send it out on the robot. It really, they should dress him up like R2-D2 at the barge on Tatooine.
Right?
That's what he was moonlighting as when Jabba had him.
Right, that would be perfect. And I mean, Chewie would like that, something like that, huh? So that was really fascinating. But the lack of labor thing, though, kind of segues into the other thing we wanted to talk about. And this stems from what's going on with everyone right now. I don't know if I know a single person that doesn't directly know someone who has COVID right now.
Or recently.
So I went to HEB the other day with my older son, and he wanted to buy chips. And I'm working as hard as I can to make sure that they're actually feeding themselves well. But sometimes 13-year-olds just want to eat chips, right? So we go to HEB, and I cannot not go to the produce department. And we walked through, and I noticed just first around the corner was the tomato table where all the fun tomatoes are, had nothing on it. Not a single clamshell. That is really unusual. I mean, I've seen Wipeout, and this was 5 p.m. on a Monday, and that's prime time for Wipeout. And then I went around the corner to the carrot aisle, and there was one carrot, and it was like had fallen out of a bag, and it was on the floor in front of the wet rack. I'm like, there is something really right. Yeah, carrot shatter.
Carrot shatter.
There's something really wrong going on here at this HEB. This is very unusual. And we walked around a little bit more. Apples were a little thin. The salad case has been really thin lately, but do we know what's going on with salads? There's a whole lot of different, product recalls and, outbreak issues. And I didn't think Texas was involved with much of that. But I chalked it up to that because, I figured there were some supply chain issues that are lingering from that. I threw the photo up on LinkedIn though, and I got a lot of comments. There are a lot of people saying that it's inbound trucks, that there's a lack of inbound trucks. And of course, we've been talking about transportation and logistics issues for 2 years, basically, actually before 2 years. I mean, that's like the perennial problem for the produce industry is labor and freight. And so I'm like, well, okay, maybe it's that. And then I started getting DMs and texts from insiders who said, oh, no, it's COVID outbreaks at the distribution centers, and that the distribution centers have hard limits on how many cases they can send out the door because they have to basically triage to see who needs to get what, and this is what you get on your truck because we only have so many cases that we can load before we run out of labor hours, basically. And it's not just like a calculation, it's like the warm bodies are not there. And then I started hearing it from everyone that, yeah, I mean, my store looks like this. And I heard from the DC that they are having trouble with people. And it's because we've got so many people out sick, combined with the inbound freight problems, combined with all of that other stuff, and combined with weather as well. And we're going to continue to see it for at least a couple more weeks before we see anything let up anytime soon.
It probably will be, I would say at least a couple months under this thing, but the optimistic way to look at it is all the data is showing us that maybe this is Omicron running through our society
I mean,
And
I
then
read an
once
article.
everyone's sick, like,
Yeah,
look
it's
at
going to
that
run out of
anymore.
fuel eventually.
Yeah.
There's going to run out of warm bodies to infect. It's terrible to think of, but we're at a point where, I mean, it's getting everyone right now. My kids' schools, I think 56 schools in Texas, the school districts in Texas are shut down right now. We've got, it's not a surprise to anyone out there that this is going on, but that is a symptom of what we're seeing going on in the stores. And the one thing that we can remember is that this is temporary, just like the very beginning of March in 2020. That's what I said. It had a very March 2020 vibe to it, where it was like, wow, there's no food here. Do I need to hoard? And did I hoard? Yes, I did.
Well, not carrots.
No, but I bought toilet paper.
You get sucked into the hoarding. You know
did.
intellectually that it's not a supply issue. It's a chain issue.
Yeah, it's
There's
a chain
not
issue.
a lack of toilet paper out there. There's a lack of trucks getting it there.
I know, but I'm like, I don't want to use my husband's bidet. So I'm not going to run out of toilet paper. So, I mean, that's the first worldiest of first world problems. But I feel like a lot of consumers are going to start to see these empty shelves, and they're going to go, well, I better stock up on, potatoes, carrots, rice, bread, milk, eggs, all of that stuff. And it's going to exacerbate the problem. It's human nature. And so the only thing is that I could see that the market could respond with is, if wholesalers have any bandwidth to make some calls and work some connections on the retail, now would be the time to reach out to those retailers. And maybe if you don't have a agreement with them, maybe it's time to reach out again, because it's definitely a lot of retailers in the market are having a lot of hard times as far as keeping things on the shelves and getting things out of distribution centers, at least from all of the texts and messages that I'm receiving of empty shelves and all of the media photos that I'm seeing.
Yeah, I certainly believe it. I've seen, my favorite one that I've seen is the empty meat case, and right next to it, the faux meat is all full.
Yeah, there is food. There's plenty of food to eat.
Yeah.
Is it what you really want to eat? Perhaps not.
Okay, just skip that one.
Well, that's it for the Produce Reporter Week in Review, because obviously there's a dog outside and Chewy's going to start going crazy here in just a second. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up. What are you barking at?